Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back under the video from 6, and today we are checking out Pain beats up the Sannin badly. Now, this is an interesting one, because I always kind of thought Jiraiya did an alright job fighting against Pain the way he did, and throw Tsunade and Orochimaru in the mix. I kind of thought maybe, they would maybe make a difference, but apparently not. I mean, you do think about Naruto in his Sage mode, and he didn't really beat Pain either. So, and he was stronger than Jiraiya, able to use Sage mode better. And I would say that Jiraiya is probably the strongest of the three, Sannin, Tsunade being weakest. Let's go into it.
So this intro is being recorded after the fact because of some audio problems, but Thunder God is on the video, so obviously go subscribe to him. He'll be linked down below.
Okie dokie.
The rules for the fight we went over was Jiraiya won't have intel on Pain since he died in the fight with Pain.
Okay.
We took Orochimaru from part 1, so he obviously has no intel on Pain. And Tsunade will have her intel.
Would he not though? Maybe not.
Since she'll be herself from the Madara fight, so she can pass any intel on to Jiraiya and Orochimaru as the fight goes on. Pain will be as close to Nagato as he needs to be to use his full ability kit like Chibaku Tensei and whatnot.
Okay.
The first thing we're going to go over is Pain's statement about Jiraiya saying he probably couldn't have won without his secret. Thunder God has his interpretation of that statement, and so do I, so he's going to start with his and then I'll give my interpretation. So to get started, I've been talking for a minute. We're gonna talk about the Jiraiya, like, oh, Pain says he could have beat me statement. Thunder God has his, interpretation of it. I have mine. They both come to sort of the same.
If we didn't have the secret of ours, we couldn't have won.
Yeah. I mean, so I always interpreted that statement. You can interpret it a number of ways. I feel like the bottom line that like nobody believes is that Jiraiya would have just beat full power Pain, or like if all the paths of Pain were there, just based on how he just lost against 3 of them. I always interpreted that statement as he was going to eventually find Nagato, or just like reach the main body, since that's the kind of secret Nagato was trying to protect.
That's the way to look at it, yeah.
Naruto. He's like, oh, you finally found me out. You leave village, Shinobi are smart, and kind of like throws a little like throwback to Jiraiya as well. So it's I've always been in the interpretation like that was more so like discussing like him finding Nagato or in the main body, which isn't defenseless, but just isn't as like invulnerable, or like isn't like a machine or contraption that can be damaged.
It's the main vessel.
Yeah, and so my interpretation of it has always been that it's more so Pain talking about, because he mentions the secret that they have, right? And I think that the secret that he's talking about is the fact that he had 3 more bodies that weren't on the battlefield. So if all 3 bodies were there, or all 6 bodies rather, sorry, the other 3 were there with Pain whenever he fought Jiraiya the first time, and Jiraiya used Frog Song, which completely caught Pain off guard.
That's just always been something I thought about. If they were all there and he knew about that, he could have literally just took them all out with it.
Pain would just be done because all 6 bodies would have been caught, and then Jiraiya would have just destroyed every single path. I think that that's probably fair. I think it's way more fair than saying that Jiraiya could just beat Pain, especially since during the fight with Pain, Jiraiya was literally saying that, well, if it keeps up like this against these 3, the 3 non-combative paths, to say the least, if it keeps going on this way, I'm probably gonna die. And then you got the whole Naruto's whole narrative in the Pain arc is sort of just to surpass Jiraiya. That's stated a couple times. He's learning Sage mode to beat an opponent that Jiraiya couldn't beat
with Sage mode.
So I think it just makes much more sense that Jiraiya just had that big hacks. Maybe he could have won, like pulled out a lucky victory, rather than actually like beating on Pain.
There's no way Jiraiya would have actually full on all 6 bodies just absolutely pounded them. It's the genjutsu that he had. I've always thought, oh wow, if only the other 3 were there.
So then I get there's another thing. This stuff is like sort of annoying to have to go over, but it's necessary because some people think that this can't even be a discussion for certain things or another. And it's the Sannin versus 5 Kage comparison. So we went through this because we were like, yeah, this is kind of an annoyance. It like gets in the way. We went through this and we ran the translations through ChatGPT, and specifically ChatGPT 4. It's like more advanced AI or whatever. to translate the scan. The scan comes from Fanbook 2, and it's talking about how the Sannin and the Gokage are like comparable or whatever. I've used it in videos before. I don't know if you used it ever in videos.
I've used it in like one video where I discussed the Sannin versus the 5 Kage. Unironically, as we're doing right now, so it's
Right.
funny. But yeah.
So one thing about the statement that people don't really bring up is that it's another one of those like prime here's in reputation-y statements where it brings up the fact that it said that they were that strong,
But you
not
don't
that they actually
see
are.
it. Yeah.
And if it's more of a reputation thing, then that kind of like brings into question how valid it is at this point in time, because not only have the 5 Kage changed since the Sannin were like active and fighting, you know, you got Tsunade's the Hokage now,
Yeah.
and that's another complication we'll get to in a minute. You got Tsunade's the Hokage now, Gaara's the Kazekage, the Raikage's gotten stronger over time because of like fear of the Akatsuki or something like that. It's like, if it's reputation based, like who's making the reputation, you know, what are they basing it off of?
Yeah, like
And
who's
Tsunade's
spreading these things, and how do certain people know how strong certain people are without seeing certain things? Is it just hearsay? Yeah.
part of both teams here, right? Seemingly, unless you think it's talking about like the 5 Kage, including Danzo. Tsunade is a part of both teams, so does it mean the other 4 Kage can't make up the difference for 2 Sannin? I don't really know about that.
I'll say this too. You know, as far as like the reputation, it also doesn't help that the Sannin like are most known for like when they initiate the 3-way deadlock. So you could even make the case like them with their like them fighting alongside their 3 main summons is what gives off like this impression that, oh, these guys could beat the 5 Kage, or like, you know, if a random shinobi just saw this from like, you know, watching a battle from afar. It's definitely, you know, so when looking at these like kind of lore based statements, you can run with them. Like, I won't just outright say, oh, you can't use them, but I do think like context is important, and you do want to tackle it with a degree of skepticism. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's literally like a vague statement from a point in time you don't know of. You have to attack it with at least a little bit of skepticism. How much you think skepticism is valid for the statement is gonna be up to you. But at least with Thunder God said like, oh, you know, consider the 3-way deadlock, considering, you know, what 5 Kage there were at the time. Taking those things into consideration
Gosh,
is
nice wailing
probably
there,
just the
bam.
best way to go about it, rather than just taking the statement, you know, prima facie at face value, blah blah blah. Then there's like, you know, the Sannin, when they fight together, they get 3 times stronger, and I'm gonna go ahead and admit I was just wrong on this. Like I said it before, I was just wrong. This is one of those examples of things where it's like it was told to me,
But
I
you
read
didn't-
the scan. I was like, oh yeah, that kind of checks out.
Yeah.
And then like I
You don't actually
read
witness
the
it.
scan,
Yeah.
and it's just not what it says. Like that's just blatantly not what the scan says. So I'll read the scan. I believe this one comes from the second fan book as well, or the second data book.
Okay.
But it says during fights, their skills would increase 3-fold and create stories of great battlefield deeds. It's basically talking about the fact that whenever Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru fought
It's so epic that people talk about it more.
together, they would grow their skills 3-fold whenever they like entered a battle or something like that. So not only does it say skills, not strength, it's not talking about, oh, when they fight together, they get 3 times stronger. It's in the past, whenever they would fight, like in wars and whatnot, each battle would increase their skills by 3-fold.
Right, they would get stronger as they're going. Right,
But yeah,
right,
I mean,
right. It doesn't mean
I
like
said that in my video with
together
Swag
they
when
add
we
the
did Sage
multiplier.
Naruto versus the Sannin. I've said that statement a few times now.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I've mentioned it. And you know, it's one of those things like it just gets passed around. You hear it, and you're like, oh, that's facts. And then you read it, and you're like, bro, who told me this? Who
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
Look at
Okay.
and smack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I will say, you know, skills could like, in my opinion, like it could translate into teamwork. Potentially like their arsenals, like their combo moves. Could be like a storm ultimate type of thing, you know, so it is a little vague, but like it could add to like maybe that narrative with like the 5 Kage, you know, maybe their teamwork allows them to kind of like rival the 5 Kage as a group, or the Gokage, however you want to interpret that.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to talk about, like the Sannin versus the 5 Kage. Like the 5 Kage, up until the Madara fight, they were not working together well as a team.
No.
So I mean, you throw like these 5 guys who don't like each other, essentially, up against these 3 like teamwork gods. Okay, maybe they actually can, you know, do some damage. Then there's like this other statement. This is another one that I've like misquoted in the past just due to mistranslations and whatnot. I mean, at some point, at some level, you know, you kind of can't blame me. There's been bad translations out there. I mean, that's just
We're human.
Yeah,
we do like it happens. Like, what do you want? Like, you know, like mistakes happen. You know, like translations that like everybody accepts. We've accepted from time to time. So it's like, you know, I'm a big like advocate.
Because I remember back in the day, I'd read the Naruto chapters as they were coming out online every week. But then whenever a volume would come out, I'd purchase it, and then I would notice that certain words or statements were different to what I had read previously when the chapter came out online. And there is decent amount of time sometimes between when a chapter comes out on the internet and then when the physical version comes out. So easy done, yeah.
Like as time goes on, you know, maybe some translations that were accepted at a time, you know, they're not accepted later on. It happens.
Yeah.
You know, we're human.
Meta's change, and you know, it's just like, okay, well, we got access to this new tool, ChatGPT. It can give unbiased, context-filled translations. So let's
Right,
relate to
cool.
that.
All right.
So this one comes from the 1 Decade 100 Ninja like anniversary guide. It's a 10th anniversary guide for the
Cool.
manga. It's got anime pictures, but it does say it's for the manga, whatever. It's by Kishimoto.
Well, you gotta
all
have
that.
something on there to, you know.
I basically said before that it says Jiraiya has ninjutsu that like it surpasses the 5 great nations or something like that. Ran through ChatGPT, and what it says is that his like techniques made other ninja from other countries tremble since the times of Great War.
Right.
So I mean, it's a little bit like this statement's way more vague and less direct than that other statement, which kind of matches up. I don't know how much you know, or like, you know, people listening know about like the Japanese language versus the English language, but the Japanese language is a lot more vague than the English language is. Like, there's not a lot of specific phrases for some things.
Right, yeah, so like a lot of phrases can mean a lot of different things that we say. Like, we'll have like loads of different words for stuff, and they'll have like one phrase. And sometimes, isn't it like sometimes as well, it's like it's the way it's said as well that gives it more meaning as well. And it's like, how do you like even put that down on paper?
So yeah, I mean, the statement being way more vague definitely matches up with that.
Yeah, it's a lot more like context heavy. Like it's not as explicit as English. Like you have to kind of like look at what like you definitely have to like look at what it's pertaining to like very specifically. You can't just make like blanket statements from it. It's a whole like it's very different. Just to like add that, yeah.
That's why like if someone was to take like a specific sentence out of a manga page and translate it, it might come out really weird.
Yeah.
But if you throw like
Yeah.
the whole page up there, okay, maybe
Makes more
the
sense.
translation's gonna come out a lot more accurate. But yeah, it's really way more context based than English is. So I mean, that's pretty much all the like debunks and things we need to go over. That's more so like correcting mistakes and then like making it to where we can actually set the stage to give our own scaling and opinions on the signing. I'll let you start out with that because I've been rambling a lot with these debugs. So you can start with whatever signing you want. Pick and go.
I mean, so you know, I'll start off by saying because there's a couple
I feel bad, but when you put Tsunade in this,
different ways you can approach the
doesn't-
signing from a lore aspect,
have a-
from straight up.
no, it
beats.
doesn't have a chance.
We could talk about lore in a second, but you know, starting off to kind of have a base mark, we do see that like Four Tails Naruto is a pretty big like comparison towards the signing. We have Orochimaru, or not Orochimaru, well Orochimaru yes, but Jiraiya who verbatim states he almost died to a weaker
Yeah,
Four
he's
Tails
got that
Naruto,
scar on
that's
his
not,
chest,
like,
doesn't he?
Shippuden Naruto, it's like still him when he's training. So you may argue like his body isn't fully developed or not able to like retain that
Seal
much chakra.
weakens over time.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you have that, and then you have Orochimaru, who's also like stalemating this Four Tails Naruto. Now, his performance, you know, some people argue it around, but essentially, like Four Tails Naruto is like Four Tail Beast Bomb. Orochimaru blatantly concedes, if this hits
touch me,
me,
I'm dying.
I'm dead.
Yeah.
It's over. It's
Through the
clear.
region, I'm dead.
100%.
Now-
and Orochimaru, go ahead.
just to cut in really quick, I'm gonna let you continue. So Orochimaru does contend with Four Tails Naruto probably a little bit better than we were expecting Jiraiya did. So I want to throw like some kind of context in here because I think the Four Tails is a great place to start with like scaling the signing because two
of them have actually dealt with it, yeah.
Orochimaru, I'm sorry, when Jiraiya first fights the Four Tails, we know Jiraiya obviously does not want to kill Naruto. He's trying to place a seal tag.
Oh,
on his head.
Orochimaru.
But Naruto does do massive damage to him. And it's not like Jiraiya had to take the hit or anything. I highly doubt he would have done something like that. So Jiraiya's trying to place a seal tag on him. Orochimaru is probably just trying to put him down, right? And Naruto almost kills both of them. Like, he hits Jiraiya, and you know, obviously the Nine Tails attack is like poison, right? And so not only did Jiraiya have to deal with the poison aspect, but then like the blunt force of the Nine Tails attack as well. And then when Naruto hits Orochimaru, I get a lot of people ignore this because Orochimaru has crazy regeneration.
Yeah, he
right?
does. Yeah, with all the snakes. And that's
Naruto
mad.
cut him in half. Like, he's got regeneration, sure. He's got endurance, but his durability, Naruto cleaved him in half. Like, left hand or right hand, whatever, swiped him right in half. So it is pretty consistent that Naruto, or Four-Tailed Naruto, can like run through Sannin with the amount of AP he has. At least if you think Jiraiya and Orochimaru are like comparable in durability just because of the Sannin stuff. But you can continue with what you were saying.
No, that's a really good point. You actually encapsulated a lot of my thoughts. It's just that this sports you're good. You were spinning, you were cooking. I had to let Chef cook.
Yeah.
And when listen, what we kind of have like Four Tails Naruto, he's like this benchmark. Whether or not you think this is like base Sannin to like their full power, Jiraiya with Sage Mode or like Orochimaru's eight-headed Hydra form, that's a little bit different of like a discussion. You could concede that like they'd be a little bit stronger. At least in Jiraiya's case, Orochimaru's a little less quantifiable for like his eight-headed Hydra form. All we know is that it's stronger. We don't know by how much. It doesn't help that like it's kind of like feetless almost, because like pretty much he got paired up against like the worst person he could have ever.
Yeah, the only time we ever see it is against Itachi, and it's like, goddamn. It's like, you can't really, like, what a dude to have to go against with this form where it's like, you're told it's the ultimate form, but then you're against this guy that's got the Totsuka blade and the Yanamura. And it's Itachi. It's like, oh, goddamn.
Gotten paired up against, so we don't really have anything for that. But the Four Tails, at the very least, to the base Sannin tier, like, is very threatening to them, is capable of killing them. This should also extend to Tsunade as well. I cannot see a reason, like, it really wouldn't. And again, the big problem with Four Tails Naruto is, like, the durability aspect to it. And we're going to come back to this later, but if this kind of extends to all three of the Sannin, it is kind of a big problem. But you wanna pick up from that?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously that's just base Sannin scaling. We have the higher form Sage Mode, Byakugo Seal or 100 healings, and then we have the eight-headed Hydra. So the scaling for those is a lot more weird. I know specifically.
I think eight-headed Hydra formed Orochimaru would do some damage, but then he is a big target as well, so that gives him a bit of a disadvantage. Just Tsunade, man, I just don't see it doing much.
It's a big debate amongst people.
I mean, the brute force, like the way Naruto brute force is the and I don't remember the path's name, so the one that does all the weapons and that. Maybe she could just like smash that to pieces, but I just
Whether or not Orochimaru is equal to Jiraiya in Sage Mode or he's equal to Jiraiya in base, I'll just give my opinion on it really quickly. You can follow up if you want to or not. So
yeah,
I think that since the statements in Data Book 1, far before Sage Mode is ever introduced, it's probably talking about base to base. Both of those two are comparable.
Yeah, they're pretty
then,
similar, aren't they?
The eight-headed Hydra and Sage Mode are maybe just comparable amps, and they all get equaled out again whenever they go into their higher forms. Now, Pain's statement I'm gonna bring up about all the Particle 3 have like weird powers. That's not directly indicative of them being equal amps, but I do think that it's speaking to something when he says that when Jiraiya enters Sage Mode. Like it probably is insinuating that all of those are around the same power or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree with that. And there's actually like a narrative element too, because you have like, okay, Naruto and Sasuke who are going to fight like Itachi and Pain, right? Mm-hmm. You have Pain like bodying Jiraiya and his like higher form of power, and you also have Itachi bodying Orochimaru and his higher form of power. So it kind of like keeps that narrative consistent for like Naruto and Sasuke to come in like and win against those same opponents who bodied their teachers and their teachers like stronger forms. You know what I mean? So I think the narrative like also keeps that in play to what you were saying.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that argument. I actually like that a lot. So I do think like the higher forms are all probably around the same level.
Okay.
And then from there, it's just like, well, how does it change? How does the fight between Jiraiya and Pain change if Jiraiya gets two more people like around his similar level of power?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because we see Jiraiya fights like 3 of the less offensive paths, the 6 say. Now, if you put all these dudes in a field, you kind of have to look at, okay, what is the Sannin like starter move? Like, what's gonna happen? What does everybody do? Me and Six were kind of talking about this. And in my opinion, like he kind of shares this, like we think they start off with the 3-way deadlock, since that's like very in character. They do that a lot when fighting as a group. Not always, but that is something in character to do. And it would make it easier on them as well because they'll have summons to aid them in battle. Jiraiya can do like combo moves with Gamabunta, who can like shoot toad oil and like he could add fire to it. Katsuyu isn't that crazy in my opinion. Do you want to talk about Katsuyu real quick?
Yeah,
I don't think she's
so.
Like,
Katsuyu, for one, let's be clear. Katsuyu's not gonna be like she was in the War Arc, right? Because in the War Arc, they summoned more Katsuyu than they normally do because Sakura and Tsunade were both putting their Byakugo pools of chakra together, and I think they summoned 1/10. So Tsunade is gonna summon like a 20th of Katsuyu max, and yeah, Katsuyu can like help heal and things like that. But that's obviously only to a certain extent, and if she does it too much, she can run out of chakra really, really quickly and essentially just like not die, but be incapacitated. She'll go into her little like
gonna be able to help
raisin form where she's all shrunken up and whatnot, and they never show her face in the manga. So Tsunade's got that, and that's like a pretty good medical aspect, but Katsuyu is not all too crazy offensively. She's way more defense.
Yeah,
I'll
she's
say
a
that,
healer
because she does have the acid, and Orochimaru says the acid can melt him, right? I'm not gonna say that that's because he's weakened or anything, because it's acid, not like a straight
it's what it does
force blast. So
yeah,
let's just say
it's not like they take a technique and gone, oh wow, that's super effective against me specifically. It's like that's like a technique that's gonna burn anyone that it touches, like regardless of what durability you've got and everything. It's acid, it burns.
Acid can weak or melt like full power Orochimaru. It's probably chakra, so then you got like a pain that could absorb it. Obviously you have the fact that the Diva Path could push it away or make it like a force field or something like that.
Sage Mode Jiraiya.
But Katsuyu's main thing is gonna be like splitting up and then like healing whenever she gets caught or something like that. And then with the whole like summoning thing going on, Pain has his own summons. That took
true as well.
How many frogs did Naruto have?
3.
Oh, so Naruto pulls up, right? He pulls up with like on Gamabunta.
Yeah.
He has Gamakito,
So
Mr.
4.
Gamakin. I believe Gamakichi's also there, but he just
there.
doesn't help. Yeah, and then Monpa.
Yeah.
So technically 6, but 5 are really in the battle.
Yeah. So you got like 5 frogs,
I pictured the big
and
3.
then this time he's there's 3 summons. The animal path I'm not gonna say that it's like going to just wash the summons, but it's a much more difficult battle, especially when one of the other summons that they have there isn't really too offensive. You got like the dog that can regenerate and whatnot, and then if things really get too dicey, Pain can really mess up every summon. Like the Diva Path, he can really mess up every summon with like a Shinra Tensei or something like that.
True, yes.
Yeah, and honestly,
Cut
like
shit.
you could even make an argument the summons, like for example, like you brought up the acid, but like even in like part 1, like we have Manda blatantly reacting to the acid, so like even like the acid's like crazy potency, like properties that could potentially be there, because some people maybe argue like Orochimaru's capping. That could also, that doesn't really like make the difference here. And like you said, like you have Gamahiro and Mr. Gamakin who are like comparable to Gamabunta, and like Pain just one shots all 3 of them like the minute the Diva Path enters the fray. Like it's not really too much of an issue, and it's like the 3-way deadlock, there's a rock paper scissors element there, but they do like have to be relative to each other to like kind of compete with one another. So, and you brought up the animal path, like the constantly replicating dog that like that jutsu that Pain puts on him, like that dog's like regenerating from like the Rasen Shuriken, which is like compared to poison. So it's like none of the summons, just like how Mr. Gamakin couldn't get around it, it's gonna be an issue. And this isn't even talking about like the bird or like the bull or like the rhino or any of those crazy ones.
The chameleon that can go invisible.
Oh my god, the chameleon's one of the craziest ones. I could, like, the thing is, right? people don't understand this. Pain did not use the chameleon against Naruto because like he's not doing a couple strategies due to Ma and Pa being there. Because Ma and Pa can sense the chameleon. So in this case, he might actually like use it, and that would actually be detrimental. Because even if you argue like Ma and Pa could sense it, Orochimaru and Tsunade cannot, along with their summons. So it's like, there is a big problem with that.
Right, okay.
Maybe the same thing happens, but it is gonna like the animal path is just gonna be so detrimental to the big three.
Yeah, maybe he could do something similar to like what he did when he was Nagato, where he enters the chameleon and then shoots a Shinra Tensei from inside. So they can't see him.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, and the chameleon, like even with Naruto's like a threat perception, able to like sense evil intent from Edo Tensei's, nothing, nada, doesn't even feel it. Like he turns around, he's like, "What's there?" Gets blasted. So it's like that's very indicative of how this like that could go, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I think like with the summoning battle, I think everything that we've provided more or less implies Pain is gonna win, and at the very least, it might just be a tie between the two of them, like a long drawn out battle, and then the Diva Path can just come in and clean up if need be. But I think it's more so just gonna be Pain is winning that. So the Sannin probably aren't gonna have their summons in this fight. Ma and Pa are probably still gonna be there just because they're on Jiraiya's shoulders, not necessarily helping out off the shoulders like they were with Naruto.
Because he can't do Sage Mode without them, can he?
But yeah, all the other summons are either gonna die or be incapacitated. So then from there, we were like, well, how do we like talk about Pain attacking the Sannin? Because there's obviously like, okay, divide and conquer, where he splits them up. And then it's like, well, what if he doesn't do that and he just goes for one of them? Or he like starts singling them out
all
to take them out
on
one
at
by
a
one.
time. Damn.
Because Thunder God did bring up to me that how he kind of did that with Jiraiya, where he just like he jumped Jiraiya badly with all 6 paths. So
yeah.
So I think the best course of action, and it is, I don't think it's stretching it too much either, because Pain is really smart. The best course of action is probably take out the medic ninja first. Take out Tsunade first,
and she's the weakest as well, so she's gone.
Occur.
Damn, alright, okay, Jesus.
So, and Pain also, he hates all the Sannin equally. Presumably, anyway.
Yeah.
So, take out the medic ninja first, get Tsunade out of there. Now, if Tsunade gets jumped by Pain, what can Jiraiya and Orochimaru do to sort of help her out to where she's not taking on the like full force of 6 paths at the same time?
Something I could see. Oh yeah. You got this. My bad. I was gonna throw something.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, like to bounce off what Six said, like there is like there is a potential like maybe like Orochimaru like summons like the Rashomon gates to kind of like disturb like Pain's field of vision.
Right. Yeah.
Also, I mean, granted, you could make a case like he doesn't know them by the time of part 1, but like assuming giving him like complete or like his access to his summonings, along with the fact that Sakon has them and is able to summon them, like it's implied in my opinion that he's able to summon them. So he could potentially do that to like obstruct Pain's field of vision, or if he sees them rushing down, he could do it to kind of like isolate some of the paths and like offer Tsunade support. So I do think like they have some options. Another option could be like Jiraiya could have the capability of like using that earth release mud swamp to maybe like trap some of the paths of Pain, or like keep them like grounded. But the problem is with that, right? Like, could the Preta pad just like absorb it? You know what I mean? Because he's like absorbing like the toad oil, and like it's kind of weird to argue like he just absorbs mud, but especially like with how the jutsu functions, because you just kind of sink into it. I don't know, but like they do have some options to kind of mitigate this. But again, like it doesn't really solve the outlying issue with like Pain just like overwhelming any of the Sannin like individually. Like continue what you were saying.
Yeah, so I was gonna approach it from the way that like Pain attacks, say he attacks Tsunade first, like we said, and then Jiraiya and Orochimaru, obviously they're not gonna sit idly by while that happens.
Yeah, they're not gonna wait until it's over.
What if Pain just blows them away for the time?
Yeah, just like push, like he just and then we carry on, and then just
blows them away. And then all the paths of Pain jump Tsunade until she's finished, because she used a massive amount of chakra summoning Katsuyu, and then like presumably healing, right, from any attacks that may have come in between there. So she's already used a massive amount of chakra. How does she combat Pain when he not only beat Jiraiya in the main timeline? He beat Jiraiya in the main timeline, and he can like somewhat keep up with Naruto, and now he's got access to all of his jutsu, like Chibaku Tensei. He's got Shinra Tensei now because it's now on cooldown from the big Shinra Tensei that destroyed the village. How does Tsunade even put up a fight against this? He's got chakra rods to disturb her chakra supply and how it flows. So I mean, I think the attacks blows Jiraiya and Orochimaru away and finishes off Tsunade like that.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, like, it is a big problem for the duo because a lot of people don't understand, like, why the Diva Path not being present against Naruto made such a difference. Like, Naruto was only able to do so well. Yeah, he had intel, but, like, the Diva Path was, like, out of commission for 4 or 5 chapters. It's actually a ridiculous period of time, which kind of allowed Naruto to, like, single him out, and even then he lost. If you kind of throw him in, it's very easy for him to, like, remove one of the other Sannin from play, or maybe suck both of them in, especially if they have no real intel on how the ability works. Because it's not like they're Kakashi with their fighting style where they're going to lead with clones or anything like that. No, they're just going to kind of fight in this case. So I think it is going to be, I don't want to say like easy for Pain to separate the Sannin, but there is options he has in that like regard. It also doesn't help that like they dominate Sage Mode Jiraiya pretty handily in physical combat. Human Path's like blinded and a smoke bomb, and he's still just blatantly like bodying Jiraiya hand to hand. So it's kind of like, okay, is Tsunade really gonna do that much better? Granted, you could probably make the case that she's stronger than Jiraiya. Maybe like the Pain wouldn't just be able to catch her palm or something like that. But it's more so speaking to that, like, her like pure taijutsu shouldn't be enough to like overwhelm Pain, or at least I can't see it. Like, even if she does like some of her larger scale attacks, again, I can't really see it being to the point where like Pain couldn't just jump out the way. Like every other
that's what I was gonna bring
up.
Up. Like Tsunade's larger scale attacks, like her heavenly kick or whatever it's called. They hit harder, but they also have larger wind up times.
I was gonna say,
to the point where
that's the issue with Tsunade. Like, if you get hit by Tsunade, right, regardless of kind of who you are, I mean, Matra, but yeah, regardless who you are, if you get hit by Tsunade, you are done in, man. Like, you may not be dead, but you are taking a hefty amount of damage. But like saying, it takes her a while to land that hit, and if you're against, like you're saying, if she's singled out with 6 different bodies, she's screwed. She's screwed. And then even if she does manage to land one on one of them, that's still just one of 6 that need to be taken out. Bless her.
Part 1,
bless.
Tsunade was doing those massive attacks on Orochimaru and Kabuto, and even though Kabuto and Orochimaru were like nerfed a little bit, not Kabuto, just Orochimaru. Even though he was nerfed, he could still like just get away from Tsunade the whole time.
Yeah, because it takes the wind up. Yeah.
So I mean, she does have those big hits, but yeah, like I said, like it's just a massive wind up time to them. And then after this, he's probably gonna attack Jiraiya. Now, I only say this because Orochimaru is the sneakiest and slipperiest of all 3 Sannin. So I think it makes sense that he could survive to the end just being sneaky and like using his
he would definitely use Jiraiya as a shield at some point, I reckon. If Tsunade's taken out and he realizes they're the last 2 and they're getting done, he's going to use Jiraiya as a way to try and escape.
Generation to like, where he comes out of his own mouth and all that. So attacking Jiraiya, I mean, I think we all know how that was gonna go. He could.
I mean, like, look. I mean, look. Jiraiya really lost. Like, I don't want, like, I'm being generous to Jiraiya, right? Like, he felt. I'll put it like this. He felt the need to retreat from 3 of the less offensive paths of Pain. Like, he's like, I straight up can't win. Does his like fastest attack in Sage Mode, gets blocked. Like nothing. Like nothing's working. Giant Rasengan. All that stuff. None of it's like doing anything. He needs to retreat. You kind of throw in like 2 of the more offensive paths, like like Asura path, pulling up on Jiraiya, blowing his arm off. Now, granted, maybe you could argue he's off guard, or maybe you argue that like, that he's his off guard doesn't really matter because his durability is raised to a certain degree because of Sage Mode. In which case, like, this really is only like elevated because the Diva Path is here. Like, the combos the Diva Path can do are pretty absurd. Bancho tending into the Asura path, Bancho tending into the human path, both are equally viable. Or if Jiraiya can ever like catch any of the paths lacking, which he can't. I mean, we literally saw this. Like he's literally trying. He literally has Ma and Pa smoke screening him and like aiding him in the battle, and he's still unable to make any ground wave. So it's like Jiraiya on his own is just not beating like the Diva path in addition to like any of the other paths of pain. If like 3 of the weaker paths are able to react to all of his jutsu, absorb it, and just blatantly handle him in pure taijutsu, it just seems pretty blatant at that.
Yeah, I mean, then if you want to talk about Frog Song, like Frog Song just isn't working on Pain. Not again. He saw Pa and Ma trying to do it again whenever he was fighting Naruto. He just easily, yanked Pa with Universal Pull, stabbed him. It's just not going down again like that. Like we already gave the interpretation earlier of the Jiraiya versus Pain. Pain. Oh, he could have beat us without the secret statement. To say that, and then we give the supporting evidence or whatnot. Say that Jiraiya is not really beating Pain. And then, it comes down to Orochimaru. There's obviously going to be another 1v6 at that point.
Yeah, he's got no chance.
And
either,
Orochimaru at that point, he's pretty much just going to get bullied. I mean, I don't want to take this too far because I know this is also debatable territory, but Pain probably stronger than Itachi while almost dead. And he beat Orochimaru. So... I'm just saying,
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there is like, there is a degree to this to where like, and the problem with Frog Song too is like, it doesn't like, cause let's say like Kishimoto's like writing this fight for whatever reason. I could see a situation where like Jiraiya's like, oh my God, like we're getting folded. I got to run away. Kind of like he does in canon. It doesn't help the fact that he's basically leaving the battlefield for like his other 2 Sannin to like fight. So it's almost like a detriment for him to go and try and clear this win con. And the fact that they're not like in a closed area might also make it like harder or like make the jutsu less effective, or like the time at which the jutsu like hits just isn't as quick. I mean, there's a whole lot of variables in the initial fight.
And what if Pain sends a path after him? Right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Like, what if
There's
he sends
6
like the
of them.
Asura path, like just jet rocketing missiles like right after him? It's like bro's not gonna be able. Like maybe he dodges them a little bit, but it's like all he really has to do is just kind of like disrupt Ma or Pa. Like that's all he really has to do for like the Genjutsu to like be broken, or like their startup to not to kind of be wasted.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like there's no tunnels for him to run in. You got the fact that he could send a path after him. He knows about the jutsu. He stopped it the second time he was gonna see it. I think there's enough that just to say that Jiraiya probably isn't gonna get Frog Song off on Pain the second time. And then there's the thing Thunder God said, he's leaving his other teammates in order to go do it if he tries to retreat.
One of the I was gonna say, just like one of the better arguments I might concede for Jiraiya is that like maybe because this is kind of a crazy feat, like he's able to pretty much like, I want to say like reverse summoning himself, but he's able to take one of the paths of Pain into like the Toad stomach while all 6 are jumping at him. So like one of like the arguments I might concede is that like he might be able to like take one of them. Now if it's any of them, like the Diva or Asura, he's just losing 1v1. I'm gonna be honest, like he's just not beating them. But like he could potentially do that here, but again, that brings us back to our original problem. He's literally leaving his Sannin friends or like teammates to like fight the rest of the paths of Pain. So it's like, while that is possible, it doesn't really solve like the outlying issue like Frog Song,
Yeah. Is there anything else you really want to go over? I mean, I think we've given a pretty good explanation as to why they
decent
kind of just
conversation.
can't win.
It's like, yeah, all right.
I mean, it's
cool,
one of those
fine.
things where like, I want to say like, because I think they would do well. Like I actually think this would be like a really good fight. Like I think their teamwork would be like pretty solid in this case. It's just one of those unfortunate situations where like the Diva path is just so much stronger than like everybody else, and like that's just presented in the story, like where like the Diva path, it's literally like he beats Sage Mode Naruto, and then we have like 6 Tails Naruto, who's like pretty definitively above the 4 Tails, which we discussed earlier. And then like even then Pain can combat him. Anime kind of extends it, but if you go out manga only, like Pain can combat him. He can like react to him and like pull rocks and stuff like that, and then like force the 9 Tails to unleash more and more of its power. And even then, I believe he says he's gonna make the Chibaku Tensei bigger. So it's
which
like,
is also something we didn't go over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tensei.
literally like we can talk about that in a sec, or if you want to. But it's like it really is just kind of this
They've got
like
so much
highlights
they
how
can
much
do,
of an
those
animal
6
Pain
paths,
is,
man.
and how like the story progressed, because like literal teams and a whole village needed to like accumulate intel on this dude only for Naruto to lose in the Nine Tails to kind of bail him out, and then Naruto like stalemate him a bit again with Sage Mode, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, Shubaku Tensei is an obvious GG. Like,
Yeah. It's just unless you believe like the Sannin can do what Itachi, Naruto, and B did in the war, which like they do not have attacks on that level to like blow it up. And even then, like, you know, you could make some arguments, but yeah, they don't. No, it's. I feel like that's pretty that's not debatable. I feel like most people will be like, yeah.
Yep. So I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else to say. Like I said earlier, I think we've given a pretty good reasoning, pretty good explanations as to why the Sannin kind of can't beat Pain.
Yeah, okay.
I do know like a lot of people have been asking me for this.
Okay,
why not do the video?
Fine.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, go subscribe to Thunder God. I'll leave his channel linked in the description. Subscribe to me as well. You know, like the video, and you can check out our collab on his channel too. We did the what did we do?
That's crazy.
Bro, I'm
That's
tripping
crazy.
right now. But my mind just went blank.
No,
We
I'm
did
playing
the
with you.
Akatsuki free for all.
Yeah. That's what we ended up doing. No, check that out. That video came out great. Everybody loved it. Most people.
It was a great video.
Oh, so funny. What did we do
goodbye.
again? Oh, no. Oh, I'd be so embarrassed. That was good. Yeah, okay, I kind of agree. Like, you know, the approach was fair. Yeah. Make sure you check out my Etsy shop. Link is in the description for t-shirts and hoodies that I've designed. And thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link is in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is our special. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know that I should watch discuss some future videos. I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.